The first thing a man does after being reborn back to before the doomsday arrives. He actually spent $1 million to buy a native dog. Onlookers all thought this kid was crazy because this native dog is worth at most $500. The boss also asked the young man if he was joking. But before he could finish his sentence, Chen transferred the cheese to him right away. He knew deeply that no one would understand his actions at this moment, because only he knows now. In another month, the cheese will turn into waste paper. An unprecedented zombie apocalypse disaster will break out worldwide. By then, 80% of the population will mutate into zombies. But among the remaining humans, a small portion have awakened abilities. Some have awakened element abilities, while others have awakened physical enhancement abilities. Chen, on the other hand, has awakened the extremely rare spatial ability, possessing top-tier talent in both combat and self-preservation. However, a very small number of animals have also undergone evolution, awakening abilities. And this wild dog is one of them. Moreover, it is the Thunder and Lightning King, ranked first in the Thunder class, the last animal in the apocalypse that has not been infected. Therefore, it has also become a sought-after food source for all survivors. There are not too many people who want to eat its meat. But without exception, all these people died tragically under its thunder ability. Except Chen, who used his unique skill Void Step to take down its dog life. He successfully ate the dog meat. And this skill has also enabled him to easily escape from the surround of zombies countless times. Chen, who possesses spatial ability, can be said to have survived to the extreme in the apocalypse. Unfortunately, he survived until the end. He only realized that he had outlasted all the survivors. At this point, the entire world has fallen to the zombies. No second human can be found anymore. He, unwilling to be lonely, eventually dug a hole and buried himself alive. Unexpectedly, he was reborn after death and returned to before the outbreak of the apocalypse. Despite all his power vanishing at this moment, the ability space he opened in the previous life still exists. Since he was given another chance at life by the heavens, he was also granted the ability space that could stop the flow of time. So Chen decided to start hoarding crazily to prepare for the impending apocalypse, and the most scarce resource during the apocalypse is food. Soon, the dishes and drinks ordered by Chen from various hotels were delivered. At this moment, everyone is checking the delivery list with him. Boss Chen, the steamed baby lamb, steamed bear paw, steamed deer tail, roasted mandarin duck, roasted spring chicken, roasted young goose, braised pork, braised duck, soy sauce chicken, and Chinese preserved pork that you requested. 500 portions of each dish have been moved to the warehouse as per your request. After receiving the inventory list, Chen expressed his gratitude for everyone's hard work today. I will settle the bill for you right away. The few people then counted the cheese in their hands, while mocking the person for not using their brain properly. They wondered how one person could finish all the food and drinks they bought. On such a hot day, if they didn't finish it today, it would all go bad by tomorrow. Facing the ridicule from the crowd, he ignored them, and immediately stored the food in the ability space for preservation. But just at this moment, he suddenly received a phone call. The frantic voice on the other end of the phone said, Chen, you little brat. Come to the company immediately. I have something to ask you. After hanging up the phone, a wicked smile appeared on Chen's lips. He hadn't expected to receive the message so quickly. However, Uncle, I'm not so naive this time. Shortly after, Chen arrived at Chen Enterprises Corporation. At that moment, all he saw was Uncle shouting sternly, Why did you transfer 4 billion shares at a low price of 1 billion without discussing such a major matter with Uncle? Do you have any regard for me, your elder? If you have any difficulties, you should talk directly to Uncle. Chen was speechless at the words, secretly thinking that this uncle really knows how to act. If it weren't for his son flinch at admitting it in person, I really wouldn't believe it. The real murderer who killed my parents turned out to be this uncle. He even used his position to gradually take over the shares my parents left me. Thinking of this, Chen grinned and said, I know Uncle dotes on me the most. I don't have any difficulties. It's just that I have a premonition. The price of pork will continue to soar. It's not impossible for it to reach 110 yuan per kilogram. I am currently hoarding pork with 1 billion. By then, it can be turned into 10 billion. This deal will not lose money. Uncle was immediately shocked and lost color upon hearing this. He immediately said, Are you crazy, kid? This is not how business is done. How about this instead? Uncle will invest 1.5 billion to buy your shares. But Chen said that the other party has already paid. Why don't you go directly to that person and ask if they are willing to sell, Uncle? But at that moment, Chen's phone suddenly rang. Seeing this, Chen immediately left the office, citing that he needed to answer the phone. After answering the phone, he heard the person on the other end speaking anxiously. Boss Chen, the black country dog that you entrusted us to find has been located. I will send you the address right away. Shortly after, Chen arrived in a hurry at a dog meat restaurant. So the scene from the beginning unfolded. What he did not expect was, this little guy is also very spiritual. Knowing that it was Chen who saved it, it immediately wagged its tail obediently at him. Chen was overjoyed by this. He thought that this time, taming Thunder and Lightning King seemed to be a sure thing. He then took the dog with him in his Ferrari. He touched the dog's head and said, From now on, I will call you Thunder King. I will definitely provide you with good food and drink in this lifetime. After saying that, he drove away. He quickly returned to the entrance of his residential area. Looking at the strong man standing guard at the entrance, Chen felt a mix of emotions. This person is named Pillar Su. In a previous life, he and Chen had a deep bond of friendship. In the early stages of the apocalypse, Pillar Su sacrificed himself to protect Chen, who had not awakened his ability, and retreated. With just his own strength, he managed to hold off more than a dozen zombies, buying precious time for his escape. In the end, he died tragically in the midst of a swarm of zombies. Chen looked at the man in front of him and secretly swore, Brother, rest assured. I will never let tragedy repeat itself in this lifetime. I will make sure you can drink and eat heartily. He is clearly the strongest camper in Apocalypse. But he only wants to seek death with all his heart. It's not because he is too weak, but because he is already invincible. With his explosive teleportation ability, he can be said to pass through the midst of 10,000 troops without a scratch. He breaks into the zombie army as if entering an uninhabited land. But he managed to survive until the end. Only then did he realize that he had outlasted everyone else. Here the whole world has completely collapsed. No longer could a second human like him be found. He, who had nothing to live for, ultimately chose to bury himself alive. But to his surprise, he was reborn back to before the outbreak of the Doomsday. And he also retained the ability space that he developed in his previous life. So he decided that this lifetime, he would live in a different way. He absolutely couldn't live a lonely existence like in the previous life until the extinction of the human race. He is going to start hoarding supplies like crazy, then recruit strong individuals to establish his own power. But the first one he wants to win over is actually a dog. Don't be fooled by its harmless appearance now. It is the Thunder and Lightning King in Apocalypse that makes all the zombies tremble in fear. In the past, someone ranked ability users from various factions. Chen naturally ranked first in the Spatial class. In Flame class, the top spot goes to the person nicknamed Blood Rose, the Fire Princess. The champion of Thunder class is this dog. Soon, the detective commissioned by Chen found the Thunder King. So he splurged $1 million to buy it from the dog's owner. Then he found Pillar Su, who had a life and death bond with him. In the previous life, he retreated to protect Chen, who had not awakened his ability. He single-handedly held off more than a dozen zombies, and as a result, he perished in the siege of the zombies. So, in order to repay this kindness, in this lifetime, Chen insists on ensuring that he lives a life of luxury and extravagance. At this moment, he spoke in a deep voice. "Pillars, do you have time after work? How about accompanying me to the bar for a drink or two?" But who knew this silly boy immediately declined Chen's invitation on the spot. He said that his mother had taught him, since he was young, that offering kindness without reason would only lead to trouble, either wicked or thieving. "Brother Luke, you better go by yourself. After all, we are not familiar with each other." At this moment, Chen only realized with deep regret that he became brothers with Pillars Sue only after the outbreak of the disaster. So, after exchanging a few cold words with Pillars briefly, he then drove away. After returning home, he first gave Thunder King a bath. Then he began to plan his next steps. He wanted to establish his own power. First and foremost, he needed to accumulate a large quantity of supplies. Rice, vegetables, salt, fruits, and seeds are indispensable. Medicines, engines, and tools are also essential. And the most important is drinking water, because after the doomsday arrives, water sources will be contaminated, and there is no way to purify it. To drink safe water in the apocalypse, people can only wait for rain. Next is to put those strong contenders in the apocalypse under surveillance in advance. Anyway, who will shine in the future will be crystal clear. But just at this moment, Chen suddenly thought of one more important thing to prepare. That is the stun baton. This is a divine weapon before the awakening of ability, because zombies are particularly afraid of electricity. Thinking of this, Chen immediately took out his phone and started frantically placing orders. High voltage stun gun. Alloy armor. 100 sets of each. No more weak starts. I'm kicking things off as the Supreme MC. Before the apocalypse descends. The man sold his shares worth 4 billion at a low price of 1 billion. Then he started crazily hoarding a large amount of supplies. Not only did he spend millions to buy a local dog, he also hired a cook at a high price to teach him how to cook. Everyone thought he was a rich spendthrift who had more money than sense. Little do they know, he is actually playing a grand game-changing strategy. He is stockpiling resources to establish his own power in the apocalypse. Then he will recruit all the strong individuals in the apocalypse under his command. However, the first ones he approached were a pair of sisters. Don't be fooled by their petite and cute appearance. They are significant figures in the apocalypse. The elder sister, Flames Me, is the combat powerhouse of flame class ability users. She is also nicknamed Blood Rose Fire Princess. The younger sister, Purple Me, is even more remarkable. She is a very rare light class ability user. Although her combat ability is almost zero, she possesses powerful auxiliary and healing abilities. Later on, she will awaken the resurrection ability. So he wants to take down this pair of sisters no matter what. So Chen immediately ordered a private detective to investigate their information. It is important to find out what they like to eat, because he knows deeply that to capture a woman's heart, he must first capture her stomach. Moreover, after the outbreak of the doomsday, food will become very scarce. If I can provide them with delicious food every meal, who can resist such temptation? The detective quickly figured out the sisters' eating habits in detail. The older sister, Fire Princess, especially loves spicy Sichuan cuisine. Her favorite fruit is grapes. The younger sister, Purple Me, loves eating braised pig's trotters and fish. Her preferred fruit is watermelon. Upon receiving this information, Chen immediately started hoarding food for the two sisters according to their preferences. At this moment, there are only 7 days left until the apocalypse arrives. The batch of custom-made alloy armor and high-voltage batons that Chen ordered a few days ago. The supplier unexpectedly delivered the goods to him a week early. This made him extremely happy. With these equipments at hand, he can easily beat up low-level zombies before his abilities awaken. In the following days, Chen received more than 10,000 units of supplies one after another. After finishing these tasks, Chen called his uncle. "I have a big deal to discuss with you. I guarantee it will be profitable. Let's talk in detail when we meet later. After hanging up the phone, Chen wore a sly smile. He thought it was time to settle accounts with his wealthy uncle. The day the apocalypse comes is the day I seek justice for my parents. And now, there are only 3 hours left before the outbreak of doomsday. Chen then took Thunder King to Uncle's residence. When passing by the entrance of the community, Chen even parked the car specifically to remind Pillars Sue to be very careful around 8 o'clock. After saying that, he drove away. After arriving at Uncle Ty's house, Chen, his cousin, warmly said, "You haven't had breakfast yet, have you? Come, let's eat and chat. Father has been waiting for you in the dining room for a long time." However, once Chen sat down at the table, he immediately began his crazy elaborate rice dish mode. He did not mention a word about the so-called big deal. At this point, Uncle quickly pretended to care and said, "Chen, slow down your eating. Don't choke. Later, talk to Uncle about that deal of yours. That's a sure win and no loss." But just then, a sudden and shrill cry of misery came from the kitchen. So, Uncle hurriedly asked Chen to go over and check the situation. Upon seeing this, Chen immediately got up and followed suit. He said, "I'll also go take a look and see if there's anything I can help with." At this moment, Chen had also opened the door. But when he saw the scene in front of him, he was immediately scared and sat on the ground. I saw the maid who had turned into a zombie, hungrily gnawing on the butler's body. The next moment, the zombie who heard the noise turned its head and lunged towards Chen. This frightened him, and he immediately stood up to block the zombie with the door. However, just as the door was about to close, a hand suddenly grabbed the door panel. This man tried to show off by attempting to drive a Ferrari with one hand for the first time. The result was the outbreak of doomsday. But he not only didn't feel surprised, but also appeared particularly happy. It turns out he was reborn before the outbreak of doomsday. He not only gained an infinitely large supernatural storage space, he also stocked up billions of resources in advance. But when Chen saw his cousin being attacked by zombies, he suddenly grabbed a door plank. Then he reached behind and pulled out a stun baton to shock it unconscious. Then Luke unhesitatingly threw him to feed the zombie. Chen, who saw this scene, was suddenly shocked and shouted, "Chen, you beast! Today I will fight you!" But before he could finish his sentence, he was immediately knocked to the ground by Chen with a backhand blow. At this moment, Chen, who was being bitten by a zombie, was desperately begging Chen to save his life. In response, Chen not only did not lend a helping hand to him, instead, he even kicked away the hand that was extended to him. He looked at his cousin, whose flesh was being gnawed by zombies until it was blurry. Chen, on the other hand, smiled and said, "How can such a touching scene be without an audience?" After saying that, Chen immediately shouted to Chen on the side, "Wake up, uncle! Quickly get up and see your son for the last time." Seeing Chen being torn apart by zombies, and no longer recognizable, Chen was heartbroken. He quickly begged Chen to save your cousin Chen, and stated that the matter of seizing your family property has nothing to do with your cousin. It was all my doing. Upon hearing this, Chen snorted coldly. "Don't tell me, uncle, you haven't done anything else that disappointed me." As soon as this was said, Chen was stunned in place. He secretly wondered if he also knew about that matter. Seeing this, Chen grabbed uncle's clothes and said, "Have you figured out how to answer me? Cousin can't hold on much longer." Seeing that he was about to give in, Chen immediately said in frustration, "Thinking about the bond between uncle and nephew, if you help me now, I can guarantee not to call the police on you. Otherwise, don't blame uncle for turning ruthless." When Chen still showed no response, Chen angrily scolded Chen as a beast worse than a pig or dog. But before he finished scolding him, Chen slapped him across the face with a loud smack. "I think the beastly animal is you, right? After your investment failed and went bankrupt, my parents not only helped you pay off all your debts, they also gave you 15% of Chen Enterprises Corporation shares for free, making you the second largest shareholder after my father. But how do you repay my parents? I won't mention taking over my father's Chen Enterprises Corporation. You also hired someone to create a car accident to harm my parents. I'm not falsely accusing you of this, am I? Upon hearing this, Jian Chen immediately shouted, "How did you know?" His words had just fallen when Luke Chen directly threw him towards the zombie behind him. After a series of terrifying screams, Jian Chen and his son took away the freshly made box meals one after another. But at this moment, the zombie suddenly turned the gun and lunged towards Luke Chen. But unexpectedly, it pounced onto the electric batten. The electric batten instantly gave it a shock, leaving it charred inside out. But Luke Chen did not stop there. Instead, he stabbed Zombie in the forehead with a backhand strike, because he knew there was something good hidden in Zombie's forehead. The next second, Luke Chen retrieved a crystal from Zombie's head. Although this thing is useless now, it will be very useful after awakening. The man only used 50 kilograms of cheap gold, just exchanged for a valuable electric stick with the boss. Everyone thinks he is a foolish idiot, because this electric stick is worth at most 200 yuan. Little do they know that the end of the world will break out in 5 minutes. By then, gold will be worth less than scrap iron. And the electric batten is a divine weapon for dealing with zombies. Indeed, after the apocalypse arrives, Luke Chen defeated a zombie with a high-voltage stun batten. He then extracted a crystal from the zombie's head. After the outbreak of the apocalypse, both zombies and ability users will form a crystal in their heads. The energy contained in the crystal can not only accelerate the recovery of ability users, but also enable them to level up. The larger the crystal, the stronger the energy it contains. So from the size of the crystal obtained from Luke Chen, it appears to be just a low-level one. He then prepared to return to the car to pick up Thunder King, as leaving it alone outside would indeed be too dangerous. However, just as he walked over, Luke Chen noticed a zombie lurking suspiciously next to his car. The next second, that zombie lunged towards Luke Chen with its teeth and claws bared. Seeing this, Luke Chen remained calm. He casually pulled out an electric batten from his backhand. He directly struck it with a spark accompanied by lightning. Immediately, he took the crystal from the zombie's head. But when Thunder King saw his master risking his life to save him, it was instantly moved to tears. Shortly after, Luke Chen took Thunder King back to the villa again. Because after the apocalypse broke out, survivors could awaken their abilities anytime, anywhere. If they encountered a zombie when awakening, it would be game over. So before that, he must find a safe place to survive. And then Luke Chen leisurely started peeling an apple, quietly waiting for his awakening moment. But just at that moment, Thunder King suddenly started barking non-stop on the side. He turned his head to look, only to find that it was surrounded by a golden lightning. Luke Chen was so scared that he immediately took a big step back behind the sofa, because he knew this was a sign of awakening and ability. If he didn't take a step back, he would definitely be electrocuted by this creature. Soon, Thunder King completed the awakening and obtained the Thunder ability, and its intelligence was also further developed. This made Luke Chen extremely envious, just as he lamented how he was now even inferior to a dog. A sharp, piercing pain instantly spread throughout his body. Soon after, he lost consciousness and fainted. He didn't know how long it passed. He trembled as he slowly got up from the ground. Immediately, he eagerly tested his abilities. At this moment, Luke Chen waved his hand, and a burst of spatial power instantly shot out, directly smashed a hole in the wall. But Luke Chen seemed very lost, because with his current damage, he can't even kill the lowest level zombie in one hit. So the top priority is to absorb as many crystals as possible to level up. Ability users' levels are generally divided into level 1 to 10. After level 10, they can challenge the king level. In the previous life, Chen and Thunder King were both ability users of King level. However, after he absorbed Thunder King's crystal, his level advanced to another level. Unfortunately, after that, Chen, unable to bear the loneliness, chose to end his own life. So he said he would not let the tragedy happen again in this lifetime. Then Chen started training Thunder King. It must first become familiar with its abilities before taking it out to hunt zombies under Chen's guidance. The Thunder King, which gained a secondary development of wisdom, is very quick to master the newly awakened thunder ability. Chen immediately put on the alloy armor and swaggered out of the villa with the Thunder King. This is a mutt worth over 100 million. Even Pikachu is just a little brother in front of it. Just because it awakened the thunder ability that's even more badass than 100,000 volts. Although the damage of the thunder spell is indeed astonishing. But unexpectedly, Thunder King cast Thunder Spell for the first time to deal with the zombie. Instead, it ended up striking emptiness directly. This dealt a heavy blow to the Thunder King, who had just awakened its ability. Seeing this, Chen immediately comforted it not to be discouraged. "You first helped me lead those two zombies away." Shortly afterward, Thunder King followed the owner's instructions and flew the zombie kite. And Chen walked into a nearby upscale supermarket. Then he opened a superpower space and immediately began crazily absorbing goods. This wave of zero-cost shopping not only allowed him to get a lot of food. He also unexpectedly obtained 7 or 8 pieces of crystal. And then he walked out of the supermarket contentedly. He then found Thunder King still working hard to put up the zombie kite. Although this little guy would become the famous Thunder and Lightning King in the future, at this moment, it couldn't handle so many zombies alone. So Chen immediately joined the battle. After dealing with this group of zombies, Chen then took Thunder King to a nearby large cold storage facility. The early stage of the apocalypse is a great time to gather supplies. So how could Chen possibly let this golden opportunity slip by? Soon, a man and a dog arrived near the destination, only to find it surrounded by zombies at the moment. It seems they want to enter the cold storage. They'll have to deal with these zombies first. However, Chen just got off the car. 2 zombies snarled and lunged at him. The next second, the cute little creatures were electrocuted by Chen. But just at that moment, 3 zombies suddenly pounced on Chen from behind. Upon seeing this, he immediately performed a martial arts move called Double Dragons emerging from the sea, swiftly dispatching 2 of the zombies. But unexpectedly, at that moment, a third little cutie zombie opened its bloody mouth wide and lunged at him to bite. With a clang, the little cutie zombie then bit directly onto his armor. As a result, the little cutie zombie not only lost 2 front teeth, he was also stabbed and sent flying by Chen with a reverse baton strike. Empowered by the alloy armor and the baton, Chen can be described as moving through the enemy forces like a hot knife through butter, with nothing able to touch him. In no time at all, he easily took care of all the zombies. He reaped a rich harvest in this battle. He took down more than 6 pieces of crystal in one go. After that, Chen did not enter the cold storage directly. Instead, he found a heavy truck nearby and shouted with a mischievous grin, "Thunder King, hurry up and get on. I'll take you for a ride." Then he stepped on the gas pedal directly to the floor. He headed straight for the cold storage door at a speed of 100 yards. This really scared Thunder King on the side. It kept barking non-stop. After crashing through the gate, Chen did not slow down. Instead, he stepped on the gas pedal and crashed into the horde of zombies inside. This crazy move frightened Thunder King on the side, who exclaimed that the owner was too brutal. What Chen didn't know was, at this moment, there are 3 survivors upstairs secretly observing his every move. At this time, one of the women excitedly said, "Once he takes care of these zombies, let's ask him to take us out of here." But the man beside them disagreed, questioning why someone would help them. Looking at his behavior, it's clear that this guy is a tough one. It's obvious that he's here for our supplies. We better take action before it's too late. Let's set a trap for him and catch him off guard. Let's take him down directly later. Then we can steal his truck and supplies. At this moment, Chen has successfully taken care of the zombie army. But just as he was happily collecting the crystals, the girl suddenly walked up to Chen and said, "Thank you for saving us. Can you take us out of here?" Chen was about to ask how many people are still here. He was suddenly subdued by two men and pinned to the ground. "Son, I advise you to obediently hand over all your supplies. Otherwise, I will kill you right now," Chen said with a dark expression. He silently thought, in the apocalypse, mercy is a death sentence. This statement is not just empty talk. Indeed, kindness is the most harmful thing in this apocalypse. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. At the same time, Thunder King immediately rushed towards the three people when he saw his master's life being threatened. Upon seeing this, Chen also took the opportunity to retrieve 2 electric batons from the ability space, even though it was his biggest secret. He absolutely couldn't let anyone find out. But Chen was confident that they would keep this secret for him. What is the most terrifying thing in apocalypse? It's not zombies. It's the human heart where good and evil are hard to distinguish. Especially those innocent-looking girls who say, "Thank you for saving me," with their mouths. Behind the scenes, she joined forces with others to push the life-saving benefactor to the ground. They also threatened him to hand over all his belongings. Otherwise, they would attack him immediately. Seeing this, Chen did not go easy on her. He quickly took out 2 electric batons from the ability space. Without hesitation, he sent the 2 little Gargas straight to the underworld. The girl was so scared that she immediately turned and ran. However, Chen showed no intention of chasing after her. Instead, he chuckled and said, "Can you run faster than someone with 4 legs? Thunder King is now watching you." As soon as he finished speaking, Thunder King immediately pounced and knocked the girl down to the ground. With a flash of fire and lightning, the girl was instantly defeated. And next comes the exciting shopping spree segment. What he did not expect was, the goods here are definitely abundant and diverse. Not only is there a large amount of chicken, duck, and fish meat, but also a variety of seafood products. Even spices and condiments are fully available here. Chen was not polite either. He directly collected all these supplies into the ability space. Chen can be said to have gained a lot from this trip. He took down 7 to 8 tons of food in one go. Chen then took Thunder King to prepare to go back home first, because there is still a brother he couldn't part with there, Pillar Sue. On the way home, he met a survivor who wanted to hitch a ride. Dingqin took a look. The man still had an iron rod in his pocket. It was obvious that this guy was not a good person. So Chen stepped on the gas pedal and drove past directly. At this moment, only to hear the man angrily saying, "Kid, I'll remember you. Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I'll kill you." Chen immediately got off the car with a gloomy face, thinking since he had such thoughts, then I'll keep you no matter what. After all, after the ability awakening, everyone has the ability to be deceitful. All threats must be eliminated at the source. And at this moment, the man had already walked over aggressively. Upon seeing this, Chen immediately kicked Thunder King. The next second, the little guy jumped off the car as if he understood what was happening. The man didn't hesitate either. He picked up an iron rod and smashed it down on Thunder King's head. At the same time, the little guy also spewed out a bolt of lightning from his mouth. The dog missed, but the man was instead electrocuted into charcoal by the Thunder King. At the moment when the man fell to the ground, Chen's voice suddenly came from behind. Thunder King must not show any mercy to the enemy in Apocalypse. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know how you died. Thunder King understood his master's intention immediately. It immediately put an end to future troubles with a single bite. Shortly after, the man and the dog drove back to the residential area, as the heavy truck could not enter. Chen was worried that this mobile fortress might be stolen by other survivors. So he came up with a clever idea. Let Thunder King attract some zombies from the area to come and show them the vehicle. After doing all this, Chen immediately enters the community to start looking for the pillars. Although Chen remembers that in the previous life, when the apocalypse came, pillars Su hid in the villa area, he cannot remember which specific building it was. So he had to shout Pillar's name loudly. Even though this would attract a large number of zombies, he was willing to risk it all for this brother, who had once sacrificed himself to save him. Pillars, who was hiding in the villa, quickly heard Chen's call. He was about to go out to meet Chen when he was promptly stopped by a girl beside him. The girl immediately said that this person must be sick. Being so loud will only attract all the nearby zombie pillars. Brother Pillars, you must not go out. He will harm us. As soon as she finished speaking, several zombies immediately ran towards this side. But the next second, all of these zombies fell under Chen's electric baton. Seeing the situation, Pillars quickly said, "Now you can rest assured, right? Brother Chen is so powerful, how could he possibly harm us?" After saying that, Pillars shouted downstairs, "Brother Chen, I'm here!" Seeing that his brother was fine, Chen also showed a long-lost smile. But when he saw a girl standing next to Pillars, his expression changed. Chen's face immediately turned pale. I secretly cursed, how could I forget about silly Chen, that little bastard. In the previous life, you really caused us a lot of suffering. So in this life, don't blame me for using you to teach this silly brother a lesson. Who would have thought that this pitiful and adorable cute girl in front of us is actually a beast worse than a brute? To test if the tap water after the apocalypse is contaminated, she secretly took her savior to conduct an experiment. Every time food is distributed, she always hides a portion beforehand. Then, in front of the honest and simple Pillars, she would pretend to be almost starving, and then deceive him out of his portion. Even more despicable is that she stirs up trouble between Chen and Pillars Su, always praising one and denigrating the other behind their backs. In the previous life,